Chas Smith. It is the grit for April 5th, 2024.
It sure feels like January 4th here in Southern California, David Lee Scales.
Is it raining?
It's pouring and freezing.
Yeah, it's just started raining here too. It actually has been off and on since 4 a.m.
Bleak. Ooh, what were you doing up at 4 a.m.?
I just heard the rain start is all. I was not awake. I was awake at wakened at 5:30 by cries of "Daddy, my diaper wet. Change my diaper."
Perfect. That's the way to start the day right there.
Exactly, yeah. And so I changed Lauren's diaper and there we go. Just kidding. Anyways, lots of big news this week in the surf world. Sponsor swaps. Stab Magazine just dropped the sexualization of women in surfing yesterday.
Ooh, I didn't even see that headline. I was too busy getting enraged about them saying Gabriel Medina was going to make a cut that I missed the actual enragement.
Who thinks the Gabe's going to make the cut?
Stab thinks he's not, or suggested provocatively that he's not going to make the cut in a headline that is behind the paywall, so I couldn't read why or wherefore to.
Should I open it up right now on air and read it?
Nope. I bet it's real boring.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Um, well, the news that came across the transom yesterday as I was driving home was Nathan Florence joining Florence Marine X, his brother's, or I guess their eponymous brand.
Big time. Big time. And it made me wonder, why not earlier? Why didn't this happen before? But I guess maybe Florence needed, and the machine needed a bit of time to find its footing. And so this to me is a great sign that it did find its footing, right? I mean, of
Yeah.
all of the, and we talk about, I think the surf industry implosion often here, and the Quicksilvers and the Billabongs and the Volcoms and the Hurleys all becoming meaningless. Florence Marine X is not one of those. It is backed by the best in the business and fronted by the best in the business. Who could beat the team of Bob Hurley and Sons, Pat O'Connell, plus John, and now Nathan out front?
Yeah. I went through the same thought as you did, which was why not sooner? But the reality is, I think that um, Nate, they both earned each other. Like
Yeah.
Nathan has earned all the credibility in the world through 2023 specifically. Um, and so he could basically pick whoever he wants to he has his choice of what brands he would want to be partnered with. But in that same time, Florence, they went from startup to then actually proving themselves through multiple different kind of seasons of gear and then iterations on last season's gear and improving stuff and delivering great product to customers timely at a great price. And so the feedback from the community that I've heard from people who, wear the stuff is all positive, and they're a proven entity now. And I feel like Nathan, it's not a matter of, hey, let's just get all your brothers to ride for the team. It's a
No.
matter of Nathan's worth a certain dollar amount, and we're going to pay him that certain dollar amount because he's worth it. And we are a legitimate brand. And so we've proven ourselves, and he's earned us too, you know?
I mean, I think in terms of stock price, if surfers were stock prices, those who bought Nathan Florence a couple years ago are laughing all the way to the bank now. Like his
Yeah.
his rise in both what the public, you know, being aware of him, what he's doing, like his clips, his attitude, the whole thing. It's been a Nathan Florence show, it feels like, for a year. It feels almost as if Nathan has eclipsed John as the Florence of, or the first Florence that I'll think about in my mind.
He's definitely, it's almost, I wouldn't trade one for the other. They
No,
both have
no.
proven themselves in their own space. And he's
Nathan
also
just
done
does
it in,
more.
yeah, well,
Nathan is
Nathan's
like
also,
always making content.
and he's done it in, it's a totally different thing. You're right. Like John is more elusive
Yep.
and drops a banger every once in a while, where Nathan's kind of on the hamster wheel. But it's also, Nathan's done it in such a way that you cannot question the validity of it. You know,
No.
when Italo started out, he's doing big flicky airs and stuff. And then there's the critics who are like, yeah, but where's the big rail turn? Where's the big waves? Nathan's kind of covered all of his bases to where there cannot be a critic out there of Nathan surfing. Italo has since proven his prowess, of course, in big Big Surf. So maybe he wasn't the best example. But Nathan, we're all fans. This also leads me to where's Ivan?
Where is I mean Ivan needs time to come up. Imagine those. Ivan for a while was thinking, got one big shadow here. We got one big old shadow covering the family, right? And now imagine there are two equal sized shadows covering the family, but Ivan has proven that he can grow the best facial hair out of them all. And so, if that says anything, I think Ivan is going to end up in a good place because I feel, you know what? For those who don't recall, remember when they had like their beard or facial hair growing competition or whatever?
Yeah,
Uh, Ivan grew in my memory a full on like Motorhead mutton chop thing.
yeah.
Uh, and so I feel that is the one item. If these, like, did you watch, what was it? Not Power Rangers. What was the show where they all became one giant robot?
Transformers.
There wasn't, I mean, Transformers, I think, did that. There was another show. Voltron is what I'm
Oh
thinking
yeah,
of here.
Voltron. Yeah.
Yeah, so Voltron, they were all individual dudes, and then they became a big mega robot, remember? And so now with the Florence brothers, we have John as the, awesome competitive robot who's also like just nothing can be said bad at him on that side. We have the Nathan robot, which is awesome free surf, slab hunting, that robot. I feel one thing they're missing is the rock and roller and not the Mikey Wright, not this fake kind of, oh, we're going to brand you as, Australian mullet head bogan and, do it that way. No, no, no. Like a real Ivan. I mean, his name is stinking Ivan for pity's sake.
True.
Ivan in the garage just playing death metal and then going out. He doesn't even need to surf that well. If he's playing death metal, then Voltron, the Florence Voltron is complete.
I think you nailed it. And he could also have the first snowboard contract on the team.
Completely. I mean,
He's
Florence
a good
does.
snowboarder.
He's a great snowboarder. And Florence, I mean, they really went out purposefully to brand themselves as like kind of outdoor adventure wear. I mean, it
Yeah.
was for surfing, but it was for sailing as much as surfing because John likes to sail. And now that
Yep.
we got Ivan who likes to snowboard, why not throw a tech jacket in there? They're gonna have to figure out a new material though. Have you, David Lee Scales, been scared and are you hoarding Gore-Tex?
No, is it going away?
Gore-Tex is gone. It is now illegal as of sometime to make Gore-Tex.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, and Gore-Tex is not just one of the things that work to keep you dry. It was the thing that worked to keep you dry. And so I think Patagonia might have a leg up because they've been developing, or I don't think they use Gore-Tex anyway, and have been developing their own technology to keep you dry and not pollute. But yeah, everybody's going to be wet starting next year.
Um, this show, I think if you go back over time, you can really see an influence from Seinfeld. Last week, last week we were talking about Quiet Talkers, which is
Yep.
a full episode. Then
Yep.
there's the Gore-Tex episode where
Yep.
George
Yep.
finally ponies up and buys the jacket, and anybody who comments on the jacket, he goes, "It's Gore-Tex.
Yeah.
It's Gore-Tex." Becomes like the line of the show. And then he's in a wine shop and he turns and it knocks over a bunch of bottles because it's so bulky. Um, and it's not intentionally influenced by Seinfeld. It was
Nope.
just such a part of our lives that it just affects everything else that we discussed.
If only our show can get syndicated like Seinfeld, if only this podcast gets syndicated and we each make $10 billion like Larry David.
Yep. And Seinfeld himself.
Yeah.
I know, what is Larry David's net worth? I'm sure the internet would tell us, but it's like with that, and now Curb has had an incredible run.
And Curb will
It's like,
get syndicated too. Somebody asked him recently, I can't remember who, a talk show host asked him, and he said, "None of your effing business," was Larry David's
perfect.
response. Yep.
Do you watch Curb still?
Yeah, I watched I'll dip in and out.
Yeah.
I've never like sat down and watched Curb like season 1 to season 12 or whatever they're on. But I'll always watch it on an airplane. It's like that perfect airplane show because it's whatever, 28 minutes or whatever it is. Like you get a good laugh, you understand the whole thing. But this season, this new one, I actually started on an airplane and have kind of kept going just because I was so bemused by Larry David becoming a civil rights icon.
It it's never gotten worse.
Yep.
Like it's 12 seasons in or whatever, and it's you think it would lose its edge. It's still just as funny. But I agree with you. It's not something that I like look forward to on Sunday night and sit
Yeah.
down and watch it. I'll go weeks and weeks without catching it, and then sometimes I'll
Watch it again.
binge four in a row or something.
Yep.
But it cracks me up every single time.
It is Curbed is the honest to goodness perfect wives out of town show. Like when you
Yeah,
have or
true.
significant other. It's like that one where you have the thing you watch with your significant other and you can't when they're out of town, you can't that's just absolutely rude. Like I reckon that will end as many marriages or at least be the first real like foundation rotter of a marriage is if you insist on watching the shows you have together alone. But Curbed, I feel, is one of those shows where the significant other probably will not be watching it to begin with.
No.
And if they are, if they do like catch an episode and laugh, won't mind that they missed 4 episodes of JB Smoove.
I tried to get Lauren to watch it, and she just doesn't appreciate it as much as I do. So it's the perfect show
I mean, I
for me to
feel
watch on my own.
it is a show literally for, about, by, and again for aging white men.
100%. Yeah. So why, what's wrong with Gore-Tex? Why can't they make it anymore?
I think it's like Clark foam. It is poison for the environment. It does something very,
Really?
very, very bad to the environment that is so
Where,
bad that it's done.
where was it being made?
I don't know. I don't know if, yeah, who knows? I mean, it has to be overseas for it to be so poisonous. So if it's poisonous enough for China or whatever to say no more, then you know it's got to be the worst thing ever. But I just had a conversation about it amidst the snowboard community, wondering where, and when I says, my friend David Lee Scales, my podcasting partner, like you could speak directly to when Clark Foam went out, and everybody thought, I thought when Clark Foam went out, like shuttered overnight in my memory that, oh, there goes surfboards. Now, surfboards are going to cost $4,000 each, and they are going to be crap until somebody figures out, another way to do this. But it seemed like the surfboard industry, and you could speak to it better, didn't miss a beat in picking itself up and making better products for better prices.
Well, there's a lot of unknowns as to why Clark shuttered. And I've talked to people who are directly, who worked for Gordon and like directly related, involved in the business, and nobody has clarity on it. The story that was written by the Wall Street Journal covered some of the different storylines, which were there was an environmental kind of pressure on him. So Gordon Clark was running that business in Laguna Niguel area. That's all become residential. Back in the day, it was all empty basically. And then I think there were some commercial buildings. He had a commercial building there, but it's all now apartments and Costco and, homes, very expensive homes. So I think it was more a city planning decision to push him out. And certainly environmental regulations tightened in that amount of time as well. But he was always abiding by them. Like he never, to my knowledge,
It was like dumping in the
um,
rivers and stuff.
no,
Yeah.
never once like broke any of the laws or anything like that. I also heard a story, and I don't know if this is valid, that the some of his employees had gotten together. The business had grown. So it was like initially it's a few employees who are all on this project together, supporting it like they would their own business. But the business had grown to a point to where it was just larger, and some of the employees banded together and filed a lawsuit against him because they said they were working with cancer causing
Uh,
agents, and they were exposed to whatever. So whoever investigated, they had a third party actually come in and investigate and found that all of the employee safety regulations were in place. So he was not at fault. And furthermore, there was actually more cancer causing agents or carcinogens or whatever in various other industries than there were in his factory in his industry. So they threw out the case completely. So kind of all of that kind of leads to the reason why Gordon left, from what I can gather from everybody that I've talked to, is he really felt he was time to retire, first of all, but he also felt like he had built this business, polyurethane foam for surfboard production. Other people had been doing it on a small scale, but he was the one who brought it to the masses, revolutionized the surfboard industry. He was 5 decades in at that point, and he felt like people should be grateful to him for it. And instead, at every turn, people were trying to dip into his pocket, rip him off, and sue him basically. So he made a very controversial exit. There's a famous photo of him giving two middle fingers to the camera, and that really was his exit. He did not let anybody know, clients or otherwise, until the day of his closing, sent out a famous fax to everybody, and it became known as Black Monday. And like I said, the Wall Street Journal actually wrote about it and broke all of the blank molds, kind of destroyed all of the records, and basically just left everybody hanging. So there was a vacuum left for a period of time, but he also had a functioning monopoly, essentially. So everybody needed his blanks, which, what kind of to your point about what happened after the fact, was once he was gone, there were competing brands. There was a vacuum for a year or so where it took some domestic companies time to get up and running, but there was people importing foam from Australia and South Africa and other places, and it wasn't as good of quality. So there was problematic blanks during that time. EPS became a little bit more popular during that time. And then once the domestic companies kind of got up and running, local supply of foam, there was competition, which then creates a better product,
And
so
better
everybody
prices.
kind of, yeah, better pricing, better product, all that sort of thing. So if you talk to shapers now, I think that who worked through the decades of Gordon Clark, I think they would say the foam across the board is superior now than it was back then. But it's an interesting story that has never really been fully excavated. Jamie Brisick actually interviewed Gordon Clark on his podcast, which is called Soundings. The Surfer's Journal produces it, and discussed some of that. Gordon, he didn't really hold Gordon's like feet to the flames over the controversy of the way that he shut down his business,
Yeah.
but Gordon does give a lot of history for that time, and how his product was developed and all that.
The I heard tell that Gordon went and became a rancher or started a ranch somewhere that was very successful.
So that is absolutely true. He's done for the sheep farming business in Oregon what he did for polyurethane foam and surfboard production. And there's been articles written about him in newspapers up there, but I don't know anything about sheep farming or how you could revolutionize that business. But that is the word. He's just like, he came up and just took over, did things entirely different, dominated it, made a killing at it. And he also made a killing at foam manufacturing. Like during the 50 years that he reigned supreme, he bought a lot of land apparently on the Big Island, bought a lot of land in Oregon. So he was, flush with maybe not cash, but flush with assets when he exited.
And look at that. Well, this will happen to Gore-Tex now too, and it'll happen on the back of Ivan Florence as
Yeah.
Florence Marine X completes the
Way to
circle,
tie it all back together.
completes the Voltron robot with Ivan on base.
Factormeals.com/surf50. Let me tell you, Factor Meals has filled a specific gap in our lives that has simplified our busy schedules and satisfied and nourished us. If you follow me on social media, you know that I love to cook. My wife and I love food and wine, but there are still at least 5 meals a week where we're just underprepared, short on time, and don't want to make a bad dietary decision, nor sacrifice the pleasure that we get out of dining. Factor has solved it. Chef prepared meals that are delivered to your house weekly. They take 2 minutes to heat up and they're designed to be eaten anywhere. There's no prep, no cooking, and you can recycle the package that it comes in. Delicious meals that are good for you with over 35 options to choose from each week. Go to factormeals.com/surf50. Less expensive than dining out, more delicious, more nutritious. Factormeals.com/surf50. Speaking of snowboarding, remember we were talking about riding yellowed surfboards as a
Yeah.
possible kook and current last week. Got a couple of submissions. You asked people to send in their yellow boards. We did get a couple of emails, one
I
of
meant to post
which,
my own. I need to today.
oh, okay, cool. I'll send you the ones that came through via email too. But one of them said, "Hey, David, you guys are speaking to listeners sending in photos of their yellow boards. Please see mine attached. A 1995 Ron House 7.6. It's got Rip Curl logos on it, like the Search logo. And then shown by two of my favorite Christensen boards. Storm Chaser and Storm Chaser Split, which are both snowboards.
Mm,
Have you seen those Christensen
I have.
snowboards?
They're so beautiful.
Yeah, this is from Snowbro Brody in Canada. Um, I don't know anything obviously about snowboarding, but what's the deal with those boards and are they popular?
Funny thing about this, and Christensen, if you're listening, is he a listener to the show?
I have no idea. Yeah, he listens to Surf Splendor. I've talked to him about Surf Splendor. I don't know if he listens to this.
Okay, well, if he does, and Matt Parker too, and Matt Biolos for that matter, these guys all make epic looking snowboards. Uh, and they look like they'd be really fun. Except I've never once ridden one. I am a LibTech man. Travis Rice's Orca, the new, if anyone out there is looking to get a board, the Orca is like a perfect snowboard, which, yeah, I mean, it is just a perfect snowboard. But I would love to try those ones out, especially the ones, because I don't snowboard like a real snowboarder. I'm a surfer who snowboards. And I always wonder if those, like if Matt Parker's or if Christensen's or Biolys's for that matter, are like a surfy snowboard, but I don't know.
Well, so with surfboards, there's two elements that are really at play. Construction. So, what materials are you using and how good are you at using those materials to make a durable product, right? And then the other thing is surfboard design. So, what's the style of board? And because things are hand shaped or can be hand shaped, there's infinite kind of possibilities with the surfboard design. With snowboards, it looks like they're all constructed a very similar way by a machine, not by hand. And then the design also looks pretty uniform to me, like they've nailed it and there's not a lot of room for improvement. Am I
Yeah, I
right or
mean, I
wrong?
think so. I think they goof with the rails a lot. Like there's different kind of rail stuff they do. Like LibTech has magnet traction, or whatever, where there's like divots in the rail or something. But it's those ones. I mean, you got your powder kind of boards, your fishy kind of boards, and your just park ride. Like I think where you're going to ride on the mountain will determine what board you're going to use. But those surfy ones, like the Christensens, if they're the ones I'm thinking about, uh, yeah, like they look like kind of big mountainy, but I rarely ever see anyone on those when I'm at the mountain. So I'm always like very
Right.
curious how they ride.
Well, this Christensen Storm Chaser split that he sent in the photo with his yellowed board has like a swallowtail or a fish style
Hmm.
tail, and it's split. So it looks like the tail of the board kind of operates independently from one another or flexes independently from one another. So that I understand would be a different, you know,
Healing.
it's a variation on the traditional snowboard.
We'll get Ivan on it,
Yeah, exactly. Well, another thing that's happened in recent weeks that we really haven't discussed, but Beach Grit has documented.
thankfully.
Elo went from complete obscurity. Former WSL CEO Eric Logan went from completely hiding out after his firing to creating a Substack confessional where he's publishing diary posts every week or twice a week now.
He is so weird. I mean, let's just be honest. There's those people that you think they're weird, but then you think, oh, maybe they're not. Maybe there's like a genius behind the madness or, whatever. I think Eric Logan is a weird, weird guy who mentally broke at some point, maybe, and has just gotten weirder. Like, what in the world are you doing? If you got fired, completely, utterly, embarrassingly fired from your last job, I get going dark. What I do not get is coming back as motivational, inspirational, turn your passion into your profession. This is a lot of, his thing. And he talks a lot about specifically about surfing, about becoming, working for the World Surf League, all that. Like, where, hey, Eric, I get a lot of letters. Hey, Eric, how do I turn my passion into my profession? A, you get no letters asking that. B, if you're going to speak to this, Eric Logan, at least how in the world am I going to trust anything you're saying or even remotely buy it if I don't know a complete story? And so at least say, hey, look, however you want to spin it, lie for all I care, but at least address it. Say, when I went down to Brazil, I had a real difference of opinion. I wanted the tour to be 20 men and 10 women chasing the best waves around the world. I was going to make this public, and the World Surf League said, no, you've not going to say that. And we got in a big fight and they fired me. Anything, right? You can make yourself look good for all I care.
Yeah.
Just thinking, address it in some way. It is to me, and I'm no mental health professional. So I'm not going to say he's mentally ill. I'm just going to say he's mentally off. Very, very
Yeah.
off. And if you read those things, they are off and weird. And I'm sure we have
I
listeners who know Eric personally more than you or I do. And so I would love for any insight into, yeah, I don't know, he just has a kink about being a motivational speaker now. This is like his new hobby. He gets into stuff, right? He got into supping, he got into whatever he gets into, and now he's into, being Tony Robbins.
Right. Um, have you actually read any of
Yeah.
the
Enough
of his writings?
enough to know that it's straight up bizarre. Yes. Like it
Yeah.
is super, it's the same kind of thing he talked about. Like it's just it's positive gobbledygook.
Right, right, right.
That just like, and I have no idea who in their right mind. Like I get there's a lot of damaged people out there, right? Or there's a lot of people looking and not that that's a rude way to intro. Let me start over here. There's a lot of people looking for self-help out there, looking to any kind of leg up in business, in life, in whatever, right? Like tools to live by, for example. Uh, Brought to you by Vair Watches, Eric Logan Substack. But uh, like I get it. But then when you read his, I'm like, who in the world would be buying this at face value? And if you were, if you like, if somebody sent you Eric Logan Topenberg, and maybe he's throwing Topenberg on there, he's trying to throw the scent a little bit because
Yeah.
if somebody sent this to you or if you stumbled upon it, you would do or I would do a quick Google. Who is this guy? And Beach Grit articles on Eric Logan's Google are top to bottom about documenting his weirdness and his getting fired and all that. So wouldn't you say, well, or no, or maybe people are just that uncurious where they stumble across his
Yeah.
Substack and think, sweet.
I I'm that uncurious when it comes to him. Like I have not read any of his articles. I was eager to see him return from, after he was in hiding after he got fired. I was like, when's he going to pop up? And
Yeah,
when he popped up with this stuff, I had a morbid curiosity to click and read.
it's free,
But
by the
not
way.
enough. What's that?
It's free. There's no paywall or anything on it. Like,
Yeah, even then, I still didn't have enough of a motivation because I was like, I'm sure it is exactly what you said. There's no value, there's nothing I'm going to get out of it. So anything that I do get out of it will just be me
making fun.
identifying all of the things that we already knew to be true. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I kind of, that's where I lost interest. But each subsequent one that he posts, I do because I follow him on Instagram and he, advertises those things. So I'll read the headlines of what he's writing about. And it is weirder and more bizarre. And the photos that he includes of them, like the one of him standing on the beach holding a surfboard, and he has a suit cut vertically down the middle, so half of him is wearing like a businessman's attire, and the other half of him is wearing board shorts and a wetsuit top, surf, half businessman. I'm like, nobody, it's not like Forbes reached out and was like, we want to write an article about you and take this photo. You came up with that concept. You wrote this article. You're self publishing it and self promoting it.
Which, and I would totally understand. The other pictures are weirder, by the way. They're all real AI generated. You know, those like super AI generated photos that look or images that look like they're straight out of Scientology. They're like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very like molecules, what are like a lot of them are that he uses. But this one in particular, and the fact that like, so if Eric Logan Topenberg decided, okay, I got embarrassingly fired from my job, I left, didn't say a word about it. The NDA signed and sealed. I'm going into hiding, and now I'm going to come back. And what I'm going to come back as, though, I'll do the like business inspiration stuff, but I'm just going to leave the surfing part out of it. I'm going to say, I was in a early whatever, because I've heard this too. Somebody sent it. Did they send it to both of us? About his time at whatever satellite radio.
No, I don't think they did.
I guess Eric was like properly revolutionary in that. Like he was like a real paradigm shifter in somehow in radio. I can't remember like its turnover to so whatever it was some like he was like a major player, like a no joke. This person, like I know he's goofy and we all laugh at him and stuff, but for this thing that he did, he was like a trailblazing revolutionary.
Hmm.
So let's take that as fact, and then transitioning that into Oprah and the OWN network and all this, and just stop there, right? If you're Eric, him, putting out front that, and then I turned my profession into my passion with surfing and the World Surf League and being CEO of this organization, blah, 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 leaving off the fact that you were fired and never mentioned why, and it was for sure for cause. And what did your passion get to be a little too much in your profession? Or, if
Yeah.
you're going to bring this whole surfing thing and ride that again, then how are you not being at least somewhat like honest about why that ended? Why hey Eric, I would love a caller to ask him, or hey, so you turned your passion into your profession. Did you retire from your profession? Or you don't
Right.
look very old, or did your passion change, or what's going on with that?
And you're not even stating that prior to that firing, he failed at every single thing that he set out to do within that organization.
Yeah. I mean, surfing is
That's,
properly a wreck, right? Like, and
yeah, I
we've
mean,
joked about
like,
it for years, but it's like after this bells contest, look at we're 30 minutes in, 33 minutes in, and I'm only bringing bells up now, uh, as it relates to the failures of Eric Logan, not as
yeah,
it relates to, oh, we just finished the longest running surf contest on tour and let's chat about that on a surf podcast. Nope.
right. Exactly. Well, the final thought that I have on Eric Logan was from the comment section on Beach Grit. UAnon, which is a great
Oh, yeah.
handle, UAnon said, Jesus Christ. I love how, quote, trauma is used as a scapegoat for being a complete dumb shit. Elo will truly turnkey any sob story he can fabricate to catapult his lackluster speaking engagement career. Should we have expected anything more? So I think that says it all.
I mean, but really, really embarrassing for Eric. Unless, an egg on my face, if Eric Logan Topenberg is packing rooms to glean pearls of wisdom, then I will stand corrected. But I cannot, in no universe, Voltron universe, any universe, can I imagine anyone like signing up for Eric's stuff and thinking,
No.
That's just what I needed to get through the day."
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again because it warrants repeating. George Carlin's joke. It's not called self-help, it's just called help. Like if somebody else is providing you with insights, information, that's called help. If you're buying a book, that's called help because somebody else wrote it. It's not called self-help. So
Real good.
um so the other story coming out of Bells is not the surfing, but it's Gabriel Medina's post-heat interview after his loss in the round of 32 to Cole Houshman. You covered it, I believe, in your most recent vlog. What is your take on Gabriel Medina blaming the judges for his loss?
Is a great Gabriel Medina is back like that, right? I mean, back in a way that being controversial and making stories where in otherwise no story would exist. The surf world is far better off for having this version of Gabriel Medina than Happy Gabriel Medina or any other version of Gabriel Medina, to be honest. And uh, per his specific complaints, rejudging, I mean, that's the problem. You've said it, everybody said it. It does not need repeating, except I will repeat that when you're watching two guys whack, 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 whack the lip on a 3 foot generous, like three foot being generous kind of runner, and then sussing out who had the 5.7 and who had the 5.9, that's when somebody in their right mind should say, stop, 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 stop. This is, it's not working. Like, we just got to wait and we'll cancel this contest this year or whatever. Like, if you cannot figure out how to get a contest done in good waves, then don't run the stinking contest. Like, nobody cared about Cole. Like, and of course, people do argue. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of these side by side clips. Have you seen them?
Yeah,
Like, so people are invested enough to do that, but it's such a tiny sliver of your audience who's like, no, legit, look at how Cole went bigger on this one turn on his 3 foot tiny wave than Gabriel did. It's like, it's a fool's errand to begin with. There's no
totally.
difference between those waves. There's no judging difference. One is not better than the other. So Gabriel said it was the worst judging he's ever seen. He's wrong there. It is not at all. The judges have an impossible task when the waves are, below or around waist high. and you have guys slapping them. Like there's nothing they should give them all tens or all zeros or whatever. Just say, yeah, we can't. There's no differentiation here. Like which, so then you have Cole, and congratulations to Cole winning the trophy, but or winning the bell, but and Katie Simmers also. But you got to think, I mean, and maybe they don't. Maybe they're all so in competitor mind and have like Griffin Colapinto have their beanies pulled down over their eyes, headphones on. You know, you just live in like competitive land where I won bells, which is great. And I'm sure that if you look back in the history of bells, it's not like it's pumping every heat winner. It's not like Tom Curran and Aki and whoever. Barton Lynch. Did he win bells? I think he
No,
won bells.
I don't
He won.
think so.
Really?
I think Damian
He
Hardman might have won.
Oh, he won a couple times, I think, the Iceman. But anyway, it's not like it's always good and blah blah blah. So whatever. But it's just to see that first swell and have them totally they get a day of that and then the rest of the waiting period of unwatchable garbage. And then how do you not sit back in his organization and say, we got to knock this out. We got to figure out a way to finish in a day, basically.
Yeah, they're very disingenuous and not honest with themselves. But to that point about the WSL should be running in good events, in good waves, a friend of mine messaged in disgust in the middle of the event and just said, it's the national pastime of Australia. Surfing is the national pastime of Australia. If you can't, as an organization, figure out how to run, and there's great waves throughout Australia that on any given day are pumping, right? Somewhere is. If you can't take that with the national pastime, which means they will support you to make
State
sure that you
sponsorship,
run in good waves.
government
Yes,
money.
state, exactly. Government money, they will help you. You're the organization who cannot use those elements and variables to run surfers and good surf. You are awful at your job. The only failure here is not of Gabriel Medina or Cole Houshman's. The only failure here is of the WSL. You are completely blowing it. Terrible organization. Look in the mirror. And I think that's 100% accurate. I think, look, in the past, prior to the internet and forecasting and all this sort of thing, it made sense that you would run in crappy waves because it was like, okay, we need a two
What are
week
we going to do?
window. We've got to secure this permit way in
Yep.
advance. But they're still living by those rules. The idea that they can't sit across a table from the decision makers in Australia and be like, hey guys, can we rework this permit system so that we can ensure that we run in good surf is asinine to me.
I mean, it's insane. And I know, like, again, the cut is coming up in Margaret, right? And I will give the cut credit. Eric Logan, credit you get for the cut of makes it more exciting in the middle of the year. Otherwise, who would be paying attention after that Bells contest unless you're still in Survival League? There's no reason to even begin to care about
No.
pro surfing this year. Uh, and yeah, but and I know a lot of the surfers didn't like the cut, right? It was like, and because they lose, I heard, and maybe this is false information, but I heard last place, your last place finish gets nets you 13 grand on tour,
Okay. It's not bad.
which, yeah, it's pretty good, which makes me think it's how do they have this much money also though still like I mean they're burning Ziff's money still. No wonder he's
Yeah.
annoyed. uh I know it's not cheap to live competition stuff or anything live to air is not cheap, so they're
Yeah.
spending hundreds of thousands if not low millions in broadcasting this thing. uh they're paying surfers who lose 13 grand each. I mean, they're just hemorrhaging. I don't know how Ziff doesn't sit and say, I don't care about your whinging anymore, surfers. I can't afford this. Uh, Nobody wants this. We're cutting the tour from the start to 20. We'll do a year cut in the middle down to 10, and off you go. I'm sorry. And we'll finish contests in a swell window because I'm not going to sit
Well,
around for 10 days at Bells.
it looks like it's a poorly run organization from the outset or just from the superficial level as a viewer. But when you hear those details of the inner workings and the numbers, it looks like an even more poorly run organization.
I mean,
Just
who would buy
who
that?
would spend that much money on losers and stuff that doesn't matter?
And and stuff that people don't care. Like if Dirk and he could win, I think if Dirk came out and said, "Look, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this, 10 years ago when I got this thing. What I should have said out the gate is, I love surfers, and this is my charity. That
Yeah.
Melinda and Bill Gates." They're into vaccinating Africa. That's their charity. Whoever Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, what's her name?
Forget.
She's awesome.
Call her Melinda.
Yeah, Melinda, Melinda Bezos. Uh, she, is her causes. She has many causes that she's donating tons of money to. Dirk, I'm a billionaire too. My name is Dirk Siff. A cause always near and dear to my heart is surfers. And I know that I like surfers. And so I just want surfers to make a living. And
Yeah.
I do this as a charity. Please watch it like you watch the March of Dimes with Jerry Lee or Jerry Lewis on there. Watch this like a tard show, a tard circus.
See, that's where Elo would have really thrived if he
Yeah.
was playing Jerry Lewis's character. That's
In
the
the
role
March
he
of
was meant
Dimes.
to play.
I mean, how good would it
Exactly.
be though? How much more
Well,
sense would it make if you open the curtain and look at surfers, like look at Griffin Colapinto, look at all of them. They are all special needs, and you as the viewer are, I as Dirk Ziff, am reaching deep in my pockets to give Griffin Colapinto a life. Look at him. Look at
mm.
this simple boy, and you as
uh,
viewers help us.
so that was the our assessment of the WSL as it relates to Bells. But as it relates to Gabriel Medina in his post-heat interview, are you suggesting that he is just using that as a platform to wrench the spotlight back to him, the limelight? Like, look, there's no storyline for me. I'm here. I lost in the round of 32. I got to make this about me somehow. Nobody's watching this event anyways. This will be the reason they watch the event.
I think he accidentally he forgot that he shouldn't be mad. He accidentally got mad, but what triggered his anger was when Laura Anavar said, you made a priority mistake." And then that, like, he was like, "I made a mistake," where he couldn't believe. It'd be like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to, there's no need for an analogy. She said, "You made a mistake." And he said, "I made a mistake. Are you kidding? I'm out in 3 foot high stuff, and Cole gets a 7 whatever on little slaps. Like, this is a travesty," I think is what he meant to say. Not what he did say was the judging of that, but he said the judging's been bad all year. What I think his overall thing is the waves have been bad mostly all year, and you can't judge this thing in bad waves.
So Pipe was good, Sunset was good. 2 out of the 4 have been good, but we forgot. I as well forgot about that stuff, um, and lost interest in the tour. By the way, at this point, but Gabriel Medina objectively did make a mistake in that moment, and we don't even
Yep.
need to tease apart who surfed which wave better because, like you said, it's subjective and it's negligible. Even if you
Yeah.
have an opinion, it's negligible. But he made a mistake. He had priority. That was the final wave of the heat. Cole needed a score. That was the only, you just block in that moment. And so Gabe looked at that wave, decided it would not net the score, and didn't even paddle for it, and then got hosed with a shower of spray from Cole on the first turn. And then Cole went it directly into a second turn, which was sick. But Gabe made a mistake in that moment. And I think that Gabe has so much ego, he cannot accept that he made a mistake. So as he's getting showered with spray, that was the real indicator he made the mistake and he was not going to admit it. And then Laura calling him out on it publicly activated the ego even more. And so he had to double down. And I don't believe that there's anybody in his camp telling him, hey, you made a mistake. Like, let's go back and rewatch the footage. By the time he got interviewed by Laura, he had not watched the footage back. So how could he even fully believe
That it
that
was the
he won
worst
that?
judging. I mean,
Yeah,
I
or that
think
it
what
was
he,
the worst judging.
again, I think what he meant to say was these are the worst waves I've surfed in days and days and days.
He
And
did allude to that. He
yeah,
did
and what do
certainly
you,
allude to that as
how are you
well.
supposed to do anything? How are you supposed to, like, flip a coin at that point? Have 2 surfers paddle
Right.
out, surf how they want, and then flip a coin who won? Because that to me would have almost more validity than different, because trying to give them an actual score, at least with, okay, well, they're surfing for our entertainment, and now who won? Luck of the draw, right? When
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
parsing together tenths of points on tiny backhand surfing, like Cole did douse Gabriel. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That was like a sick, fun moment for any surfer in the world to recognize both. If you could throw that much spray, how much fun it would be to douse others in the lineup, like people who like paddle too close to you or whatever. But then also I've been the Dow C so many times. I've been sitting there on the shoulder, some guy steaming down the line. I'm not in the way. So I'm not going to paddle to get out of the way, knowing full well this guy's going to blast me because he can, because I'm sitting here. I'm
Yeah.
like a perfect target for him. And then you just whack, take that spray right in your face. No, thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the ultimate like um disgrace, you
It
know?
really is. Even if you don't deserve it, like just being there to get disgraced is a part of the surfing
You
life.
have it is, and you have to laugh about it because it's
Yeah.
like it's one of the great things in surfing.
Yep.
Anyways, Gabriel Medina, this when I saw him that he had made this statement, and I saw it on Survival League's Instagram before I actually watched the waves because I wasn't watching the event. I was excited. I was like, sweet, Gabe's calling him out. Like odds are he's right that the judges are bad at their job or
Yeah.
they get things wrong or they experience something different than the viewers experience actually is what it is. So I was excited to see him call it out because we just so don't see these surfers express their true opinions very often. But then when I watched the footage, I was like, Gabe's actually wrong. This is
Yeah.
Gabe's ego run amok. And it makes me not like him as much, to be
No,
perfectly
I mean,
honest.
but just broaden the scope a tiny bit. I think Gabe was frustrated at this broken organization. He was
I
frustrated
agree.
at like, and also the fact that let's also be frank, and I'm not going to suggest an anti-Brazilian bias, but I know for a fact the things I do know is the Brazil market is not as valuable to the World Surf League as other markets. It just isn't, right? Like, I think
From a revenue
from a
generation
revenue
standpoint.
generating, yes, I think they've tried. I think they've realized that this thing is never, it's not like we can, like Portugal did back in the day, is move our capital to Brazil. Can't do it. It doesn't feasibly make sense. And whether or not this goes hand in hand with, but certainly does seem that the judges have their eye on a different kind of surfing now. They've fallen in love with the Ewing style smooth rail surfing is now that's the gold standard. It was for the past 10 years, I'd say, progressive aerial stuff, right? If you're not at a barreling wave, then whoever is the most progressive above the lip will win. That is by far no longer the case and kind of seems like it changed overnight-ish and leading directly to a Cole Hausmann beating Gabriel Medina and Gabriel saying like, okay, what? We're not only in crappy waves, but you've changed the criteria you've had for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I feel that was a broader frustration from Gabe and it was pinpointed on a specific moment, but it wasn't. I
Well,
think he's frustrated generally, as we all are.
that's fair. And if I if I do pull back my perspective just a little bit, I can also appreciate the fact that he engaged me in the event. I
Yeah.
was not watching the event prior. I really didn't have strong opinions about Gabriel Medina this season. I can't even remember any wave that he surfed this season. And now all of a sudden, I'm scrambling to grab my phone, scrambling to watch it, scrambling to, and I feel an emotion, opinion about it. So Gabe pulled me back in.
And one
Dub-
one thing that should be noted before going on, I can't remember who gave them this idea. Somebody in I can't remember. Somebody was, but anyway, the fact that they're interviewing losers now,
yeah,
which they should always and you should always encourage those losers to speak their mind. Like it doesn't
yeah,
bring like the sport is already shamed and disgraced as it can be. So having somebody say the judging was bad because they lost and catching them in a moment of fiery passion, uh, that only helps anything. Like it's not like somebody's
totally.
going to go, wait, is this cooked? Everybody who watches this thing knows that the judging is loopy and not necessarily because the judges are bad, but because the waves are often terrible. Like, and you
Yeah.
you mentioned Pipe being good and Sunset being good, and yes, those events had good days. There was also crappy days in those events too, right? I mean, it just takes these events are so cumbersome,
Hmm.
so like laborious to watch who in the who is sitting through an entire one? There's some people, but it's like 10,000 people in the world are sitting through an entire World Surf League event.
It's hard to be a fan of professional surfing at this point.
Really hard.
They make it very difficult. Well, it was Survival League is the one who pointed that out on
That
their
was it.
caption on their
Yes.
caption for the Gabriel
Thank you.
Medina video. They said, "Good job, kudos to the WSL for interviewing the losers."
Yeah, because
Um,
the Survival League had been I guess gave some opinions. Like
Yeah.
WSL asked for, what do you think? And old Survival League said, this is what I think.
Squarespace is the all in one website platform that is designed for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to subscriptions. They have flexible templates with designs for every category, templates that are simple to drag and drop your artwork or logos into, but flexible enough to redesign to your specs. They have online store templates that make it easy to sell physical merchandise, digital or service products like podcast subscriptions and paywalled content. They even make customizable merch. You can design products and they will handle the production, inventory, and the shipping and handling. So let Squarespace handle it for you. They'll save you time, they'll save you money, and will save you money by going to squarespace.com/surf. You get a free trial and you get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace.com/surf. Enjoy. You were asking last week about why are there not more Mormon surfers
Yes.
and professional surfers, anyways. And I was willing to bet, willing to buy that stock that Mormons would be on the come up in the next decade based on all the information you laid out as to why they should be dominating. And guess what? We got feedback on that. So I got a text message. Somebody, I know, somebody texted me and said, Part 1, Mormons who could be on tour in a few years. Haha. I heard the grit, and I think I have a few more that might surprise you. Like you said, they don't wear a specific necktie or outfit when they're surfing, but stay tuned. I'll dig up some more famous Mormon surfers who are Mormons. First and foremost, Bob Cooper. Number 2, BK. Number 3, Bob Bolin, aka Surfboards by the Greek. Those are all older surfers, of course. And then he says also Jordy Collins, the San Diego local QS Ripper, sent me a video to Jordy. And then another email came in and said, DLS and Chaz, regarding your discussion about Mormon pro surfers, as a Mormon surfer living in Southern California, I have a few thoughts on why the CT Mormon wave, though it would work on paper, probably will never come to pass for a variety of cultural reasons. First and most obvious is the Mormon mission. Though not required, young men and women ages 18 and 19 are strongly encouraged to leave their homes for up to 2 years. Even if you're sent to Tavarua, missionaries are generally not allowed to swim or do anything of the like. This is an obvious prime age for aspiring young surfers in the eyes of the CT or the QS tours, not to mention that 2 years without wetting your gills definitely impedes your growth. Second is an emphasis on higher education. Though there have been and currently are hundreds of Mormon professional athletes, particularly in the NFL, many of these are Tongans and Samoans that Chaz referred to. Most of these are in sports where a good showing at the college level is often required to make it to the next level. Mormons place a big emphasis on attending university. It would be culturally a bit at odds for someone to ditch college in order to give professional surfing a proper shot, particularly for a sport where the chances of carving out an economically viable career are next to zero, which leads me to my next point. Third, many Mormons start families comparatively young. It is not uncommon for people to get married and have at least one kid by the age of 25. These dynamics create a lot of pressure to start providing for others beside yourself at a prime age, and of course takes away from time and dedication in the water. The best Mormon surfer at the moment, to my knowledge, is San Clemente native Jordy Collins. After dropping one of the craziest edits of 2020 at the age of 18, he spent the next 2 years as a missionary in Missouri. From a quick look at his social media, it looks like he's now already married, but still surfing at the collegiate level. Maybe we have yet to see some of Jordy's best surfing, but I think a successful career in real estate or finance, like many other Orange County Mormon surfers before him, is more likely at this point. Where I could see more Mormon representation in the coming years is in surf adjacent industries. You recently interviewed surfer, shaper turned wakeboard purveyor Chris Ruddy on your podcast. I think his entrepreneurial drive captures the Mormon surfing spirit better than Jordy. I hope I'm wrong about all of this, but we'll see and that we'll see a top five dominated by Topo Chico drinking, minivan driving, BYU Hawaii alumni. I just don't know if it's in our cards. Work.
Love it. And thank you so, 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 so much for the insight and the work put into that email too. Like to, again, said it before, say it again. The people, that's you and I are just a conduit to join smart people to other people. We can talk nonsense, and then here we go. Real, true, factual, from the ground information about the whys and wherefore tos of a serious question.
Completely. And you said the work put into that email. Mormons are known for their work ethic.
They sure are. They
So it's
sure
on
are.
brand.
Well, and I think Mormons are also big into successful things. And
Yeah.
they must look at the World Surf League and also think, you kidding? Like, this is such a joke of a thing to even start to. There's no way I'm starting to get involved there.
It's
Ooh,
frivolous. What?
we need a Mormon to start a new tour, is what we need. We've been looking at all the wrong, we've been looking for another billionaire where, definition of an insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. We need just a workaday Mormon to make a tour.
There's a possibility they've assessed it and it seems like a
Financially,
totally financially, yeah, not viable or such a big risk. You might as well go put your work in as a real estate agent or into finance and do something successful.
mm, well,
Well, we'll
come on,
see.
Mormon. Come on, young Mormon listening to this. The future
By
of
the
pro
way,
surfing is yours.
by the way, is Topo Chico the best sparkling water?
The weird thing about Topo Chico, and we should get into a sparkling water ranking. We should have
I'm
a
I'm ready.
full, yeah, let's do it. Topo Chico is off-putting to me because you can leave a bottle of Topo Chico uncapped on your counter for 4, 5, 6 days. Take a sip, and it's still full sparkling. How
I
does it
did
not
not
get
know
flat?
that.
Yeah. And so either something magical has happened in Mexico, or they're adding some magical nuclear juice to Topo Chico to make it, because it's also the most effervescent. Like, it
Hmm.
is the sparklingest of the sparklies. It'll like burn your throat if you drink it too quick.
See, what's interesting about sparkling water is how much variety there is in effervescence.
So much taste, effervescence, all of it. Like, and
Taste, you understand.
I'm not talking about the flavored varietal. You would think that a sparkling water tastes like a sparkling water, but a Perrier tastes a lot different than a what's the Italian one, the most popular Italian one? The
San Pellegrino.
San Pellegrino tastes a lot different than a Topo Chico.
But it's not just amount of effervescence. It's not that this has more bubbles than that. It's the way the bubbles hit are
Yeah,
also different. There's an
completely.
explosion more, or like it's a tremendous variety. But Topo Chico is at the top of my rankings.
Topo Chico is way up there for me, but I think the consistency and quality of a Perrier is hard to beat. And frankly, I will say that the foreign brands, i.e., mostly France, Italy, and Mexico, dominate here, where those American brand sparkling waters are like Crystal Geyser or whatever, are all completely fake. Even the ones that I think have a actual, bubbly water spring, whatever. Does it come from an actual spring? It doesn't, does it? This
Like
water doesn't come out of the,
it
it doesn't
doesn't
come out
come out of the
bubbly?
ground, but it's not naturally effervescent.
Are you
I mean, it
sure?
is spring water that they're dosing with CO2.
Are you positive that it doesn't come out lightly effervescent?
No, I'm not positive, but I don't think you can bottle it and maintain the effervescence. I think you have to dose it and then cap it immediately so there's no oxygen hitting it. Otherwise, it would dissipate.
How does Topo Chico's not dissipate is one question that I have. But also,
Fast bottling.
I mean, but it literally
Yeah,
will,
no, I
it'll
don't
punch you
know
in the
the answer to
mouth
that.
again after days of it sitting out.
Yeah. Well, I will say an important factor if we're going to do this rankings is what vessel it's consumed out of because the glass bottle ranks
Only
supreme.
plastic
Yeah.
bottle you cannot do. You cannot do a plastic bottle, which is hard to
Plastic,
often find Perrier and whatnot in a glass bottle.
well, plastic bottle might even rank below can.
Yeah, for
Because like
sure.
LaCroix coming out of the can is kind of better than a Topo Chico out of a plastic bottle.
I mean, plastic bottle, I think, disqualifies whatever product out of the gate when it comes to satisfaction in your bubbly water because it's not
Yeah.
nearly as good, obviously, direct from vessel. It's also not as good. Like, I feel I could do a blind taste test of blindfolded, having somebody pour out some bottled Topo Chico and a plastic bottle Topo Chico. I feel I could tell the difference, taste, feel alone.
I feel like I could too.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
plastic is no, can is second. Sometimes though, can be sneaky. And depending on like if it's a warm day, that can is going to stay cool a bit longer than the bottle. It's almost
Mm.
preferable.
I've never been in a position where it was preferable, but I have had a stinky Topo Chico glass bottle
Mm,
more than once. It
yep.
happens once every 10 bottles where it just has like a musty smell to it. Maybe it was in like a factory that got wet or something. So I'll like pop the metal cap off, take a sip, and just get that must. I'm like, ooh, nasty. So
Yeah.
what I'll do is I've got like a wine cork stopper sort of thing, pop that in and then actually wash it with dish soap. Wash
Oh,
the entire bottle with dish soap with the wine cork in so that it doesn't get inside the water itself. Then pop that out. Boom, good to go.
so it's only the must is only on the outside of the bottle.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
good. That's good to know, I suppose.
Yeah. So, all right, there you go.
Well, yeah, I would like listener feedback too on, I mean, we should almost do just I feel this is something that our listener knows well, and I feel I could trust the opinion of the audience. Like you
Yeah.
should do, I'll do it too. I don't even know how to do those Instagram polls, but Instagram poll, which is the world's superior bubbly water, but it has to be, you can't be like, oh, in New Zealand, we have this one that's up this spring and you can get it in the 5 square mile. No, whatever we're talking about universally or more or less universally available bubbly waters here.
Well, if that is true about New Zealand, though, if that information comes in, I want to plan a trip to go drink directly from the well or directly
S-
from the spring.
Yep,
If
sampling
you're
bubbly
if
waters.
if you're right that bubbles are effervescence do happen in nature, I want to just go press my lips up against that spring and straight from the teat, suckle.
As an American, it's odd. The Americans like flat water. Like anytime you go in to Europe, as anyone who's been to Europe knows, you get the option of with gas or without gas, or however they'd say it in
Syngas.
yeah, scene gas, whatever the terminology is. Uh, Americans, in my experience, are like 90% flat earthers.
Hmm.
And I don't get it at all, but I think maybe, and I can't put this down. I would like to put it down to bubbly water being like caviar, like, anchovies, like pungent cheeses. It's this taste that once you rot your mouth enough, then you need like some kick in there. Uh, Whatever. But yeah, I see old Americans turning up their nose at bubbly water all the same as young Americans. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I do not get how bubbly water is not your preference. I get not to chug after running
Right.
5 miles, but how is bubbly water not your preference any other time?
It's festive,
Yeah,
it's like a delightful little treat without any of the guilt of the calories or the alcohol intake or whatever.
exactly.
Austin, though, 2.5-year-old kid, refers to it as spicy. So he
Yeah,
prefers flat water.
yeah. No, it's funny. My daughter called it spicy as well.
That's funny. Well, hey, we just delivered this incredible advice about bubbly water, but we also have an advice request from a listener who needs tools to live by presented by Veyer watches.
Never stops
So,
ticking that Veer, just like you and I. That's the thing. I feel like a Veer watch. We give really important information about bubbly water, but then we get another request and it's not like, oh, can't take that one, man. No, Veer watch works 24 hours a day. Bing, bang, boom. You and I, if I need to help people all day, I have the ability.
perpetually precise, and you are also assembled in America,
Yep. All of the
and,
above.
and you're ocean ready,
Out of
made
the
out of
box.
surgical steel.
Yep.
All right. Well, Vaer is spelled VAER, VaerWatches.com. Go get yours like ours. Ours are solar powered, which is incredible. You don't have to put a battery in, you don't have to wind it. It just 6 hours of sunlight lasts, keeps the watch going for 6 months. So, listener, tools to live by. Boys, I need some advice. I grew up in Southern California. My formative years were spent surfing every spot from Point Loma up to Salt Creek. Of course, based on the wide area I surfed, I was not a true local anywhere, but I felt like I was at least somewhat recognizable, even if I paddled Swamis one swell and LJ Reefs the next. As I write this, it's been 14 years since I frequented that surf zone. Many of those years have been spent chasing waves. I spent a decade in Santa Cruz, some time in Australia, a stint on Kauai, trips to Nicaragua, Indo, South Africa, Spain, Chile, Portugal. Lots of Portugal these days. But as of now, I am an indefinite non-surf, or I am on an indefinite non-surfing trip to a heavy spot called Purgatory in Central Europe while my wife awaits her green card. Note to other listeners, if you're an American and you marry a hot foreign babe, she does not get a free pass to the land of liberty. You'll get a no reply government email and a wait in line for years. So as I await my golden ticket to move back to the good old US of A, I can't help but wonder, what will my place in the lineup be when I return to the breaks of my youth, 15 plus years after leaving? Sure, the crowds have changed. What used to be free parking is now paid, but I'm also certain that I will know those spots as well as I did when I left years ago. Is it my duty to make nicey nice with whomever happens to be the quote regulars at the spots that I left when they were mine? I can't be the only one in this situation. Am I still a local? Hey W exclamation point. This is from Dr. Scholl.
Dr. Scholl, you came to the right place, thankfully. Because I feel you and I, David Lee Scales, are the only one who could answer this with like veracity, with real 100% truth here, which is uh your place in the lineup. So you come back from heavy spot purgatory. I'm curious which Central European, did you say Central European
You did.
country it is? It Romania? Is it Hungary? We could take a guess. I'm gonna say it is, I'm gonna go with Romania here. You got one?
Okay. Um, Slovenia.
Nice, good call. Following along Donald J. Trump in marrying a Slovenian bride. Uh, okay, but back to the question at hand. Yes, while all the things around the break have changed, the break itself has not changed. Your knowledge from back when, especially if you are an astute surfer, will all that holds, right? And so now it's a matter of how much dog is in your fight. If you want to go, you could go and reclaim more or less like top-ish tier spot again in the lineup by using that local knowledge and just going out and shredding. Problem is, if you go out and position, knowing where the wave is going to break, take off on the a wave-ish of the day because you were able to figure out and put yourself there and all this, and you fumble it, it's going to set you back some, my friend.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, in this case, we've talked about it a lot, and ability trumps almost anything.
Yeah.
Uh, ability plus that no local knowledge of okay, it's a swell swinging west or whatever, and so everybody. I mean, that's the thing I will notice in today's age, even like locals, uh, people who've been surfing a spot for a while will get wildly out of place pretty quickly. Like people get in conversation. Nobody is like at the places I surf, at least. Nobody's that dogged on keeping it that people will drift and you'll see everybody way too far out sometimes, so you can like, okay, sweet, poach in the middle here, and then one wave will correct, like that set will come in and everybody will recorrect back to the right spot. But
Yeah. Yeah.
all to say, you can go use your local knowledge, get that best wave, but you better kind of rip it, and not doesn't have to be high performance ripping, but you better have the person you're trying to impress, the local, or not even impress, the person you're trying to imprint your will upon, uh, It's probably an older dude. And so if you do like a big carve off the big old man carve, then you could see that guy thinking, okay, so I'm going to move over a little more and make room for my new friend here, which
Yeah,
essentially what you're going for.
all of that is true. But the one thing that you didn't really get on enough, and he probably is underestimating, is how much that hierarchy has changed in the 15 years since he's been there. Like it changed a lot in 10 years, but then in the last 5 years since COVID, it quadrupled. Like the change has been exponential in the last few years. So maybe La Jolla Reefs, there is still some sort of hierarchy, but every other spot that he mentioned between La Jolla and Salt Creek, all that's out the window. And so you definitely don't have any quote local status anymore because even those who have been surfing there the entire time still don't have that status anymore. Um, but what Chaz is saying is accurate, which is if you have prowess, you will be able to navigate the lineup better than 90% of the other surfers because people are just that kooky nowadays. And you can bait them into, like, if they are in a discussion or whatever, they just lose track of the placement of the lineup and you can outposition them pretty quickly and easily. So prowess does help in all of these scenarios, but there's no need to try to be a local or to enforce your authority from when you 15 years ago when you were there. What that is all out the window. Show up planning to just outsmart and outsurf everybody, and you'll absolutely still get waves.
And also, I will say, if having the local status means something to you, if you want to say I'm a local at this place, uh, by all means, have at it. Because you have a tech bro who went work from home during COVID, who now claims, oh yeah, I've been surfing this place for 3 years. I'm a local. Like who
Yeah,
fully feels that. And so the claiming of local now is so wildly, I think, just anywhere that you could say, man, I surfed this place 15 years ago. A lot. I'm a local.
right.
Haven't surfed it in
Yeah.
15 years, but guess who's a local? This guy.
Feels like, I mean, the local conversation we've had over and over in from different perspectives, it seems like an insane conversation to even have for me at this point. Like, and I guess I probably said that too, is I don't care about self-identifying as a local. You know what I mean? Like, I know there's certain spots in the world. Um, like I was in Central Coast earlier this week and talking to people about surfing around there. And that is very like, look, you live in this area, it's a small
That's your
town,
wave.
you claim it, you own it, like that. I get that thing. That's not the case for so much of the populated surf world. So it's not relevant to me.
I mean, I think specifically, it's not really the case for Southern California, to be honest. Like, because yes,
Gold Coast, Southern California, populated surf
yeah,
destinations.
go like real populated surf destinations. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think because, you're Santa Cruz, I'm an east side guy, I surf east waves on the east side, this is my wave, whatever. Like, that is part of your life. You're never leaving. Your kid is going to grow up surfing there, doing that, right? This is like a generational, this is you and your thing, where you have now elevated localism to be a thing that you care about deeply in your life, right? I think Southern California, again, so transient, so many blow-ins and Gold Coast or whatever. Like it's just, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Things there becomes a point where it's just based on numbers, population. There becomes a point in population where it's just not feasible to maintain that mentality anymore. But it's very applicable before you hit that point in the population because it actually works. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
keeps order.
Like it does keep order. All right, well, let's move on. I've got one surf shop in the wild story from Jay Martinez. It's a quick one. He says, "Dearest DLS and Chaz." That was a nice sign on, dearest.
Yeah, like it.
Growing up in Virginia Beach, there were a lot of cool local shops, but the iconic wave riding vehicles on 19th and Cypress was our mecca. We would spend time there any chance we could and bother the guys who worked the shop and seemed like gods to us. That intoxicating smell of wax and resin is a punch in the nostalgic gut unlike anything else. I was 13 and I had just picked my board up from the shop after a ding repair. I held the board under my arm as I waited for my mom to look at some clothes with my little brother. My Jewish mother loved the 10% discount that our family still enjoys to this day. Standing there proudly, holding my freshly repaired board, one of the shop guys came up behind me and said, quote, "We get it, kid. You surf," then directed me to set the board down while I waited. My cheeks burned red hot at that moment, but those 6 words, "We get it, kid, you surf," were a life-changing lesson in humility, and for this I am eternally grateful, even though I was already competent in the ocean. This was the day that I gained enough self-awareness to stop being a kook. I wonder if kids these days will have the opportunity to experience this kind of seminal ego death amidst the zeitgeist of woke culture and extinction of brick and mortar. Keep work, Jay Martinez.
Love it, Jay Martinez. And so very, very, very true and apt and wonderful. And also wave riding vehicles. It's one of those ones that it was such a thing in my childhood. I don't know if they did like, I mean, did Richie Collins ride? Somebody rode them that like I would see it enough where it just was like wave riding vehicles in my mind was on the same plane as like any major surfboard, like of Billabong, of, not just surfboard, but of like I surf identity, which,
Yeah.
yeah, how did wave riding vehicles crawl all the way across the coast to like it must have done something. They must have had ads or something that made me
Yeah,
consider so highly.
WRV WRV had definitely had pro surfers. They definitely ran ads in the magazine. I remember Noah Snyder
Yeah.
riding WRV. Mark Healy eventually rode WRV kind of after You're in My Youth, but I can't think of who else from our childhood would have been on it. But there were a lot of guys on it for sure. And they dominated East Coast surfboard sales for sure.
Yeah.
Um, they definitely went global, um, global awareness. Now, the question though of will kids these days have the opportunity to experience the kind of seminal ego death amidst the
Great line.
zeitgeist of woke culture and extinction of brick and mortar? I mean, is internet shaming the same thing as getting that shame from the shop bro?
You
I mean, people
know,
post stuff online and then get roasted, you know?
they get burned hard. And people post, I mean, we can make it even very specifically. People post like surf clips or surf stuff and get burned and roasted. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it's not as often as it should be, to be honest. I know that the internet is seen as a toxic place and all that, but if you look at like if I see a kooky Instagram post, particularly somebody kooking it surf wise, uh, and then go into the comments and look, and I'll see it's liked by people that photo is liked by people that I follow or follow me or whatever, right? And like legit surfer people, and they're liking this kooky thing.
Yeah.
And then people are commenting like, "You go get it." Da, 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 da. Like, rarely do you actually see someone in there saying, "Hey, kook." Like, look at even Eric Logan's all his surf stuff. Very rarely, even though we talk about it and all this, like very rarely would he have a comment in his Insta unless he was deleting them. But I rarely saw one that said, "Hey, you're a full-on kook and you're embarrassing yourself and everything you're saying you're standing for here. Like, knock this behavior off." Uh, which I think it's hard. People don't your average guy and girl doesn't actually want to be an internet bully.
They don't, and the culture has shifted so much that there's no value placed on the ego death
Yeah.
that Jay Martinez is identifying as being a virtue. Um,
Yeah,
there's
identifying it as a
people get
virtue is that it's my feelings got hurt. That was a negative thing for me. You're
right
exactly right. Like Jay Martinez identifying that. No, no, that is what catapulted you to a greater state of being.
completely, and now it's thin skin first of all, so their feelings get hurt, and that matters more than any growth that can come out of that.
Yep.
And I see that as a downward spiral. I could be wrong. Maybe, maybe the culture has shifted in a way that is actually healthier and better, and there will be growth in other ways that allow people to navigate the world despite not having that ego death. But I don't know. It feels very off to me.
Bleak. We talk on the show like, and I wonder the trajectory of the world, all things in it, going up or curving down. Like, is everyone? Are we? leading towards idiocracy, like
Yeah.
legitimately, where it's just a dummy world and people are dumb and sensitive and ignorant and all of it, right? Or
Yeah.
is there a, okay, yeah, maybe you don't have the surf shop guy causing ego death, which is then leading to personal growth, but yeah, but I guess I don't see where else it's happening. I mean, unless you're in
I-
something like daughter in ballet. In ballet, there's no there's no corner for like hurt feelings and crying. You get roasted. You get personally 11-year-olds are getting personally fried, like put on a plate and sizzled,
Yeah.
and then have to march right back in and do it again in front of everybody.
So, but I think there's fewer and fewer people that are willing to put themselves through that experience. And so there will be, fewer ballerinas, let's say in the future, but the question is, will that become incredibly highly regarded and then maybe even high paying and celebrity kind of associated with it because it's so unusual for a human being to go through that? Or will it just go extinct? And like nobody, the vast masses who just want relatability and comfort don't even value that thing anymore. So they're not going to pay any attention and support it.
I hope that things like ballet and opera and, whatever, the virtuoso violin playing, like all of these things are so like noble and have been funded by specifically the nobility for so long that they'll always be a noble class and those things just ride through. Uh, yeah, and I would love to hope too that they do increase in popularity, that the difficulty of it and what it takes to do that thing well, like so few people can do that where it gets to be appreciated, right? I mean, but again, idiocracy, how many people look at stuff they don't understand and then just write it off because they don't get it, right? It's not
Yeah.
instantly understandable to them. Oh, this person doing turny twin twists and then, turn it off, like, or move to the next thing of ow my balls in idiocracy.
And retract back to the masses who all want the exact same art, taste, every little comfort in life has to be exactly the same. Like we're just going to watch the Kardashians and do what they tell us what to do and listen to Beyonce and Taylor Swift because that's good.
Yep. And
Like
that's it. We're
that's
going to eat
that's
at
really where we're
Sizzler.
at. So you'd be much better off to go into a surf shop and have somebody call you a kook for holding your board.
So much better off.
Yeah. Well, gratefully we grew up in that world. Everybody else is wrong now.
Eat it,
All right.
everyone.
Well, let's go to commercial break, and then we've got three important barrel or Nas that we can close out the show with. Rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. Chaz, welcome back from that extended commercial break.
I love these extended commercial breaks, all the things that people can get, and how much better their lives will be thanks to
Yeah, and
our sponsors.
they can build a website with squarespace.com/surf. They could save money with rocketmoney.com/surf. And of course, eat well with factormeals.com/surf50.
I mean, what better life could you have? A robust business facing internet thing, a lot of money in the bank, and a healthy gut.
Without even having to cook or clean.
Is
So
Rocket Money the same as Rocket Mortgage? Gotta be, right?
I think they are now owned by the same parent company because one of them had a different name that changed a couple of years ago to include the word rocket.
Okay.
And
I
so,
heard
yeah, I
I
think
heard or yesterday read that the owner of the NBA's Phoenix Suns, it has the largest mortgage company in the world. Matt Ishiba, I think his name is. And the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers has the second largest, which is Rocket Mortgage. And they
Mm.
really like hate each other deeply and are like fighting a death battle. The two more largest mortgage companies in America via the NBA.
That's what's amazing about human beings is like you think you're fighting for survival when you barely have any resources, and that at some point you'll get resources and then
And
you
you'll
can
just
just relax
chill.
a little bit.
Yeah.
No, you are at the top echelon of earners on the planet, and you're still stressed out all day, every day, fighting for another little morsel.
You're in a death. You're the biggest mortgage company in the world. And you are like playing multi-dimensional chess via the NBA and other things to continually weaken your next largest competitor. You're not both
Yeah,
going to say, hey man, we're both like billionaires.
yeah.
Whew, I'm going to go sit by the
Our
pool.
our kids never have to worry about anything again, and we're still freaked out. That's Gabriel Medina making millions of dollars, traveling the world surfing for a living, and then crying about making a
Judging.
mistake on wave.
I
Yeah.
will say, man, I can't picture it. I mean, I really hope that Nathan Florence got that bag, as they say, from Florence Marine X. But no surfer today is going to make as much money as Gabriel Medina is making today. And then on down the line, where I wonder where will professional surfing finally fall in terms of how much you can earn doing it? Will it fall down to like, yeah, I'm a pro surfer. I make 45,000 a year, so I have to supplement that. I pro surf and I drive Uber.
Right. Yeah. We definitely hit the peak. Gabe's not even the peak. We hit the peak 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, stinking.
When,
Imagine like read you saw on Beach Grit that Kelly Slater selling his redundant North Shore home for $20 million,
yeah.
North Shore property. So Kelly is, I mean, and you know Kelly has more property than that. So Kelly, if he starts getting into property and then investments and then blah blah blah, Kelly could be well over 100 mil here if he isn't already, which is
Yeah.
wild
I
to think. Is
think
any surfer ever
he's,
going to make $100 million again?
I don't know. I mean, he's a, was it golden handed crypto
Yeah.
holder?
Yep. Diamond handed.
Diamond handed, right? So he saw a huge increase in his net worth in the recent months with that
I mean,
holding alone.
completely did.
Okay, well, barrel or nah. Um, Taking a hangover prevention drink.
Zero barrel at all. Like, do not do it. A flat C. If you're planning on getting a hangover, you're a dummy, A. Uh, if you're
No,
planning
they're
on going
planning
out,
on getting drunk.
yeah, go play, get drunk, and with your drunken night comes a hangover. Like, yes, you can. I will admit, into practice, you can come home from your drunken night and try to drink water. Like, water is so gross after a night of drinking, but try to chug all that water and do that. But if you're taking a supplement before even starting to drink in preparation of your drinking, then you're not doing life right. Like drunkenness and all of like a good time is supposed to be spontaneous, not like prepared for. Like, and look at the people who do prepare for that kind of stuff. Look at the person who's saying, it is tonight, or sorry, next Friday is going to be sexy night. I am going to, lower the lights down on that night and da, da, da. Who knows what that night holds, right? Who knows what Friday 2 weeks from now maybe it will be. Maybe it'll be, automatically sexy night. But you can't prepare for these. You can't prepare for celebration in this kind of way. Like,
No.
so I guarantee, if you take your hangover prevention medicine before going out, you're going to have a bad night.
Yeah, I think preparing for sexy time is decidedly less sexy,
Yeah.
and and preparing for a hangover is probably decidedly less. It's an indicator of a drinking problem, maybe is what it is. Is like I am so accustomed to this, what I'm putting my body through, that I need to mitigate against it. It
And
maybe you shouldn't
and
be
then
doing it
also
so frequently.
Yeah, and then also just thinking like tonight I'm going big. But what if that
Right.
night doesn't necessitate going big? Like, but then I feel if you take in the preventative measures, you're gonna like bartender another round of shots. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
keep it going in a weird way.
Yeah. I'm on board with this. I've never taken one of these. I've only knew that they existed recently.
Yeah.
Um, where it's like a shot that you drink and it's probably
Hmm.
just vitamins, electrolytes, or something like that. But I'll tell you what, I never have a hangover and I drink pretty regularly. And it may just be that I have a high tolerance or that I know my limit, and so I'm not pushing past the limit. But the key for me has just been hydration. And it's not hydration after you get home from a night of drinking, it's hydration the day of or throughout the night. Drink water while you're drinking wine at dinner or whatever it is. And it's like hangovers are not really a problem. So I
Well,
don't,
I mean, and to
I don't
your
know.
point, like trying to beat a hangover is trying to beat the mechanism that's saying slow down.
Yes,
So like you're
slow down.
actively, yeah. So I say, go hard and then accept your hangover because that hangover is an important part of your drinking journey of
Yeah.
where you're not going to go hard again probably that night, because you got walloped.
Yeah. If your body is telling you, giving you a very clear sign to stop doing something or to push the brakes a little bit, don't turn off the mechanism that tells
Yeah.
you what's good for you,
Yeah.
right?
Not smart.
Okay. All right. That's a no barrel for both of us on hangover prevention drinks. Barrel or not. Hello, David and Chaz. Barrel or not question for you. I recently saw something that perplexed me, and I am curious your about your guys' opinion. While leaving my local spot, I observed two guys who had just gotten out of the water from surfing help each other get their arms out of their wetsuits. On one hand, we all know how difficult getting out of a wetsuit can be at times. On the other hand, I would never feel or think that it was cool to ask somebody to help me do this, nor would I want them to ask me to help them. So I bring you this question to the experts. Barrel or not, having your friend help take off your wetsuit. Keep work, Thomas in Cape Hatteras.
Didn't we have this one? I feel we had this one.
I feel like we discussed this at some point. I don't know if it was a barrel or not, but it's been
So
it's been years for sure.
I feel in our initial my initial take was that this is temperature dependent. If you are surfing below a certain, if you're in 40 odd degree water with a 20-degree wind chill or whatever, then you're not going to be able to get out of your wetsuit alone. But I feel I stumbled on you get in your dang car, you turn on your heat, you drive home in your wetsuit, whatever. That the time and occasion for having another man help you get out of your swimming suit is not ever. So I'm going to go no barrel.
No matter what the swimming suit is,
Yeah,
wetsuit, no. Shorts, no. Speedo, no,
no,
definitely not.
no. If you're,
It's a no
yeah,
across the board.
yep, you as a man get out of your own swimming suit yourself. Now, this
Yeah.
does not pertain to our lady friends. I think you girls have at it. You guys go to the bathroom together. You do other things that men don't do. And so you can help each other take your wetsuits off all day, every day. But as for men, no, no,
I don't care if you have a shoulder injury.
nope.
You figure out a way. You create a device that allows you to operate as a third arm. But I like your idea too of driving home if it's too chilly, because yeah, it's just not. Yeah,
You
there's
can't do
certain
it.
things that are just a nah. It's a nah.
It's a not. It's undignified. It is there's no way to make it. And if you stumble upon something and there's no way to justify it or make it dignified, then it's a no. Like
It's a nah.
you all of but my shoulders hurt, but it's my hands are numb, but I mean it's just none of that makes up for because there's no nice way to do it either. Like it's
Nope.
one man struggling with another man's swimming suit is all it is.
Yep. Yep. All right, we nailed that one. Barrel or not, Chaz. I shouted speak up at a quiet talker last night. They got uncomfortable and left me alone. Thank you. But I encountered yet another incident that has periodically plagued my adult life. The damp handshake.
Mm.
Barrel or not, handing them a napkin.
Okay. Unlike the quiet talker, the sweaty handed, it's not their fault, right? Like the quiet, no matter how quiet, no matter how bad your hearing is or whatever that makes you talk quiet, there's a fix for that. Like, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable talking loud or whatever. The sweaty handed, best thing to do is pretend they don't have sweaty hands. Give it a
Mm.
firm shake and pull away, and do not refrain from wiping your hand on your pants or your jacket or anything. Just that person, the sweaty handed, has enough stuff with their sweaty hands. They don't need you. They know. It's not like they're unaware. It's not like, oh, yeah, And I think there's those people with chronically sweaty hands. We, each of us, have had a sweaty hand from time to time and gotten caught with it, right? Did you
Yeah,
need somebody
nervous
to say,
situation or something.
sure? Did you need somebody to point it out right then? I feel that when your hands are sweaty, you are, and when you're making contact with somebody with your sweaty hands, you are 120% aware of that situation. You don't need somebody to remind you.
I'll send this message out to the sweaty handed. You can wipe your hand on your pants right before you go in for the handshake. That if you are known to have clammy hands, if you're a clam hand, you need to just as a quick move, you could probably practice this at home before you go out to a public setting, but just a quick, like a old Western gunfighter would draw their gun, you just do a quick swipe on your pants and then go up for the handshake because it is
It's
on you.
it still does feel damp. And again, the sweaty handed, maybe not all things are for all people. And as juvenile and sad as giving someone the tater is, well, I mean, I don't recommend giving a tater, but like, what can you do besides shake a hand? The fist bump, you just can't do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I got a question.
hmm,
Like some people have a foot fetish, right? Or I think a
yeah,
lot of people have a foot fetish. Is there anybody who likes the sweaty handshake?
no. I'm gonna say this is one. I mean, maybe because there is a fetish for everyone. But the like when foot fetish, I feel is not even that weird probably anymore because it's a funny phrase, foot fetish. But I mean, what? It's become such a part of mainstream conversation discussion that it's got a solid 20% of the public must have a foot fetish, or else it wouldn't be so uh, widely discussed, right?
Yeah, I think that's a high percentage, but it's normal. It's
A
fairly normalized
a
now.
decent percentage. I think when you get to the freaky ones, like, and I don't even want to mention the freaky ones, but everybody knows a freaky fetish. I think somebody who likes clammy hands, just keep that locked way, way, way down where fetishes belong. Fetishes do not belong in the public sphere. That's your
They're
kink.
just
Keep it there.
they're going to cocktail parties, excited and giddy,
Looking,
hoping
looking for a sweaty
they
palm,
encounter one. And they're just looking around the room, looking to introduce themselves so they can shake more hands.
a
And then they come
slight,
across that clam hand and they just caress it and hold it.
a slight shudder when wet skin touches dry palm.
Disgusting. I am disgusted with myself for
That's
even
why
coming up with this.
that's why fetishes need to stay deep, 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 deep down. It's a problem with everybody oversharing, etc. Oh, internet's here. I can find, a group of like-minded people. No,
Yeah.
you're a freak. Keep your freaky down.
Yeah.
Keep
All
it
right. Well,
hidden.
official barrel or not advice is it is not okay to reprimand the clam handed and just shake it, wipe it off, move on with your life.
Shake it, wipe it off. If it's somebody who you need to be like shake hands often with, if it's a coworker or something like that, I'm gonna say you can make mental note and avoid. Like, that's all fine
Okay.
and good, but you just can't publicly say, "Hey man, can you take care of that dampness for me?"
Botox injections in the wrist.
Yeah, don't do it.
Okay. All right. Good advice as always. Thank you. Beachgrit.com at surf journalist if they want to hit up Chaz on Instagram. Anything else going on in your world?
Trying to think. I think not. I think this dang rain is keeping me out of the surfs. Southern
Well,
California. It's a real, like, those people who live, I used to love it. When it rained in my Coos Bay, Oregon, I would know, oh, the wind's going to be down generally, and I can go get a nice windless surf. Now it rains in Southern California, and I've gotten sissier and sissier about it. But like the amount of garbage, especially when it dumps rain, I see flowing down gutters. Ugh, the brownness
yeah.
that the water gets, yucky.
Yeah, no. And it always, in Southern California, rain always comes with 99% of the time comes with wind.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, though, on your day off, don't be afraid to go over to Stab Mag, borrow somebody's premium subscription and watch that. The sexualization of female surfing, of women surfing
It's
on
a
their
it's a
How
video?
Surfers Get Paid. It's How Surfers Get Paid, season
Okay.
two,
It's the
episode three.
sexualization episode. Oh, is it
Yeah,
good?
it's 45 minutes long. I'm about 24 minutes in. I watched it while I was eating lunch yesterday. I was really excited to see it. It was a little provocative, and the clip that they lead with on Instagram is Lauren Hill basically saying, "Oh, the irony for Stab Magazine interviewing me, Stab Magazine, like the purveyors of smut."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's have the discussion. So her kind of calling them out and them using that as the lead clip was enticing. And I got 20 minutes in, and it's not as great as it's not as provocative or as interesting as I thought that it might be.
I think
It's
there's a way
actually
to there'd be a way to tell that story both informatively and provocatively where I wouldn't trust Stab to actually do that. I think they're not actually
I,
digging deep enough.
I think they do a great job of letting everybody speak very openly and freely. And it's not just women. It's not just, people speaking against the sexualization of female surfing. They're interviewing um, not Fernando Aguirre. I think his brother's name might be
Hmm.
Santiago Aguirre, founder of Reef, who made tons of money off the Reef girls' butts in magazines. Like they're interviewing him and other people who um, kind of understand the I don't know, who leveraged the women's sexuality to earn money, essentially, and letting them defend their point for why they did it at that time. So it's both sides of the argument, or every side of the argument, I would say. But it's just not as interesting as I thought that it could be or that it might be. It kind of is what it is. It's
Yeah.
like
Sex
I'm not trying to
sells.
just
People
yeah.
used sex to sell stuff. Okay, there
And
we go.
and they interview Rosie Hodge and Sage Erickson, who did photo shoots with Stab, and they both explain why they did it, and they explain the world that existed when they did it and why it seemed like a good option for them. So I don't know, that makes it sound interesting now that I'm saying it, but for whatever reason, maybe I feel like I already know this information and it's all just kind of regurgitating it for me. I'm not sure. And I'm
I
only
mean, I,
25 minutes in, so maybe the second half is more interesting.
I think what would be interesting is to really put the brands, like I think, times change, attitudes change. What was seen as fun, sexy time, selling product, back in the day is now seen as misogyny and all this kind of stuff. I would think the only interesting thing out of this is, okay, so then what have brands done? How, like, are female surfers, in this particular case, still getting paid 50% of their male counterparts? Has some brand actually, sure, we're taking away,
Red Red Bull.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so it was 30% is what the women were making compared to the men for most of the brands through most of the time. And then Red Bull's the one kind of whose women actually athletes make more than men. And they showcase the top 10 Red Bull
yeah.
paid men and the top 10 Red Bull paid women currently. And the women are earning, 5 to 10% more than the men.
I mean, that would be interesting, and also really, and not that Quicksilver these are even surf brands anymore, but holding feet to fire of why do you use models in your ads when you pay or when you have team riders, to use in those ads? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah. Well, Sue Izzo is your wife's friend, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, she's interviewed in it, and I thought I had never seen her before or heard from her before, but I thought she was really well spoken
Yeah,
and
Sue's great.
interesting.
Sue is great.
So, so yeah, check it out if you get the chance. I'm gonna finish that later today,
I
but
won't, but thanks.
you're welcome. All right, until next week.
Keep work.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.